What's up, guys? Today we are going to talk about post-spawn bass. We're going to talk about, we each chose 4 baits that we think are pretty much under everybody's radar that kick ass post-spawn.
Yes.
Are you ready?
I'm ready. You ready?
All right, let's do it. Welcome to the Hookup Tackle. The Hookup Tackle is the world's largest showcase of Megabass products, featuring baits and colors not found at any other dealer. The Hookup also offers a wide display of OSP, Evergreen, Depths, Lucky Craft, Jackal, and many more. The Hookup Tackle is owned and operated by family, is staffed by guides and verified tackle nerds who love helping anglers elevate their craft. If you're in the Phoenix area, we'd love to have you stop by our showroom and check out the wonderful world of Megabass and the Hookup for yourself. If you shop online, there are almost 10,000 SKUs of Megabass products alone, with hundreds of other companies and new products being added daily. So next time you're looking for that hard to find bait, that color your fish have never seen before, or maybe you just want to elevate your game, look at thehookuptackle.com. Welcome back, my friends. I am Ben with the Hookup Tackle, the Tackle Otaku on Instagram, being joined by my buddy Griff. What's up, man?
What's up, dude?
G-Sticks Bespoke on Instagram. Of course, the wonderful, the only, the incredible, the king himself, Jeffrey the King behind the camera. What's up, Jeffrey the King?
That was a long one.
Well,
for just a regular ass wash guy.
True. I just wanted to hear you admit it. Very, very true. Kind of like your YouTube channel.
Oh, dude, it's in the dirt.
Fly Fish King.
Yeah, he went one time and now he's never going to live it down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's fine.
I don't even know what we're talking about.
Fly fishing.
Making fun of Jeff.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Making Fun of Jeff episode.
Pour it on in the comments down below, please.
Yeah,
Make
drop
fun
down
of me.
below. Anything you want to comment about how washed the guy actually is. That's it.
Cut. Yeah,
we're
good
done.
video, guys.
Yeah.
Thanks for watching.
Thank you for
Subscribe
the
to the
support,
channel.
guys. All right, guys, today we are talking about post-spawn fishing. Depending on where you are in the country, you are going to find yourself in a various stage of spawn. Some of you guys are still in pre-spawn, believe it or not. I mean, there's literally some places that just like got ice out. Hard to believe. Jeff and I just came back from Michigan and some of those fish were just like burst, like dying to spawn. A lot of you guys live in places like we do where it's been 100 degrees for like 3 months already. And those fish are solid post-spawn transitioning to summer. Some of you guys might even be already in summer. But the fish are all kind of behaving the same once they get through spawn. So it's a really fun time of the year. It's one of my favorite times to fish because the fish are finally done with the nonsense and they're back to just being predators.
Yeah.
Right? They're back to just like, as the angler, you're literally just catching a predator again.
Yeah.
There's none of that nonsense of, you know, tricking them off their bed or any of that stuff. It's just man versus beast.
Yeah.
You know, for me,
The good stuff.
or like man versus little one for you. So this is going to be a fun breakdown because it allows us to explore different aspects of post-spawn fishing. Depending on where you are, they could be eating all kinds of different shit, right? Like I can look in your little pile and look in my pile and they're very different piles, right? To generalize everything, you basically need topwater.
Yeah.
You need like some kind of like moving bait, whether it's crankbait, jerkbait, something like that, some kind of like a worm.
Yeah.
Right? But there are specific little niches in those categories that I think get overlooked a lot. We talk about the same topwater all the time. You know, kicking out our gunfish. We talk about the same frogs all the time, right? So today is just about some interesting baits that might be off your radar that might get you a few more bites during the post-spawn.
Yeah.
Sound good?
Let's do it.
All right. I'll let you start. Where do you start and what do you have for us, sir?
All right. So normally in the post spawn, I'm immediately going to jump to the frog.
Okay.
Right. So the frog is a great one because when they're guarding their fry, they're just starting to get to feeding again. They want to eat, and the frog is a pretty simple meal.
And normally you're talking about a frog like this.
Yes, like
Okay.
a regular frog.
Okay.
But I've been throwing this around lately, and it's getting munched. It's a small frog, right? So when the winter ends and the spring comes, everything's having a baby, right? Babies are just popping out. So although this is bigger than like a tadpole or something like that, it still represents a small frog. It's a familiar shape to them. They know what it is. It's small, so as they're, they're pretty slow coming out of the spawn. They're not going to be, super hyped up. They're not going to be super energized. It's an easy meal for them to eat. It has that great frog action. And this one right here, you can sink it so you can fish it lower in the column too. So, and that's what I've been doing. I've been running this scooper frog, putting it on the Vato and throwing it out there, fishing it like towards the bottom, just working it. It's moving its legs like a frog.
I can imagine on the Vato, the thing's got to look good.
It's sick, dude.
Yeah, I would have never thought about doing it like that, but that's smart. So just in case people aren't familiar with this, I think a lot of our viewers are, because we talk about it in the What's News and stuff. It's designed, this is an elastomer type plastic, so it's a floating plastic designed to fish like a frog on the surface.
Yes.
But you're utilizing it below the surface,
yes,
sinking it down so it has more of that kind of tadpole type swim to it.
Yes.
Cool.
Yeah. And then, with that swinging weight on there, it's getting this action like this, plus it's kicking its legs. It's sick.
That's
dude.
pretty dope.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty dope. So that's definitely not something that many people are doing.
No.
Right? So that's a good one.
Yeah.
Well done.
There it is.
Good choice on that one.
Yeah.
All right, so bottom up scooper frog, number 1 for Griff.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So let's jump to me. So number 1 for me, I love throwing topwater. So, we talk about the same topwater all the time around here because we're big fans of kick knockers, gunfish, all the usual suspects, right? But one topwater bait that really flies under the radar, it's an amazing topwater. And it's one of those that's in all of our boxes, but a lot of times we just overlook it for the kick knocker.
Yeah.
Right? So, but it's one that definitely, if you guys are fishing a highly pressured body of water where you're looking to just fish something different, it's a lot of fun. This is one that should be on your radar. So this is from OSP. This bait is called the Yamato. Now, there's different versions of this. There's a full size, there's a junior, there's a spec 2, so you can get different sounds out of it. But what's dope about the Yamato is you'll notice immediately that it's got a little bit of a different shape to it, right? I'll take this out of the package real quick. So the Yamato is going to operate just like any other walking topwater bait, right? So it is going to move side to side. It has kind of that one knock in there to give it a little bit of a sound. But what's unique about the Yamato is that it has 2 different line ties on it. So you can get basically 2 different actions out of this. One is going to be more of a skimming motion on top, and one is going to be like a slight dive, almost a wake bait type motion underneath. So you can get a different look. You can extend that bite. There's a lot of times where you start the morning off, for instance, and they smoke one particular bait, and then they kind of lay off and you have to change baits, whether you start with something noisy and then you go to silent, or you start with big and you go to small, or whatever the case is. You can almost do the same thing with this guy. If you're throwing it in the regular mode and they stop eating it, you can just change your snap and go to the different mode, and then you can extend that bite out for different periods of time. So a really, really cool bait, some dope colors. Definitely from a topwater bait standpoint, one that is super under the radar, not a lot of guys use, but the guys, I see the same guys coming through that get this bait, that either win or place very high in tournaments this time of the year. So it's definitely on certain people's radar, right? So, and it should be on yours too. So if you're looking for a fun topwater, the OSP Yamato.
There it is.
All right, what's number 2 for you under the radar?
All right. Number 2 for me is going to be a shallow diving crankbait.
Okay.
All right. And specifically in a baby bass color.
Okay.
All right. So in this time of year, there's a lot of golds in the water. So I always run this baby bass. Every baby bass that you see is a shiny gold version. I don't necessarily think about it as a baby bass. I'm just looking for that reflective gold.
The goldish color.
Yeah.
So do you want a full gold, or you like this kind of blend of natural with some gold?
Yeah. So almost everything I throw has to have a natural look to it. For me.
Yep.
The Z1 is perfect for me because that shallow water, that dive depth, and the Z deflects off a cover very well. It's one of those baits that's very hard to get caught up on something. So when all this little bait's moving through trees and stuff like that, I can burn this through like branches and stuff like that, and that gold is gonna shine, it's gonna stick out, and the fish they'll chase it down, like at the Gila when we're running through all that brush, like you'll see like the brush piles like shaking as I'm running the bait through, and boom, and then it'll just get bit. It's so sick.
I think so often when people think of crankbaits and post-spawn, they think of deep divers.
Yeah.
Right? So like I've been throwing the Big M, like you think of like the Blitz XDRs and that kind of stuff. Like that's a pretty normal like post-spawn where the fish pull off onto humps or ledges or whatever and you can dredge down there.
Yeah.
And a lot of people forget about the shallow crank because not every fish post-spawn goes deep.
Yeah.
A lot of them stay shallow. A lot of them live in places where there really isn't deep.
Yeah.
Like where you fish a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a great option. We were just up in Michigan fishing with Megabass some post-spawn smallmouth, and they were choking the Z1.
Yeah.
Right? So same idea. They didn't all go deep and sit out in structure where you have to worm them. There's a lot of fish still to be caught on this shallow stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if there's any science to this, but I feel like when fish are coming out of the spawn, you have to kind of like re-trigger that killer instinct into them. Because they're kind of lazy and eventually they're going to go eat, but they're just trying to recover, right?
Yeah.
Like, so they're just trying to, get some rest. But, when they see something like this, it's bite size and it's rushing by their face and it, it's bouncing off of everything. They're going to go check it out.
Hard to resist it.
Yeah.
All right. That's a good number 2 for you. All right. I'm going to stay on a similar category. Same brand, same idea.
Okay.
Okay. Different style bait. So that's a pretty small bait, the Z1.
Yes.
So a lot of times what happens is, post-spawn, different things will happen and the fish will feed on different size bait, right? So a lot of times the bass will finish spawn and then the shad will start spawning or the bluegill will move in and spawn, right? And so a lot of times they're feeding on full-sized things, big bluegill, big shad. But at the same time, you're also getting all those babies, going back to what you talked about with the scooper. You got all kinds of little micro stuff.
Yeah.
Baby shad, baby bass, fry, all that kind of stuff. And sometimes downsizing is important, like what's happening at Pleasant right now.
Yeah.
If you're not downsized, you're screwed, right? Well, one of the baits that flies under the radar a lot, it's funny, this bait like has these peaks, and a lot of it is based on availability. You don't hear a lot about this bait because it's not a bait that's produced very often. So availability is always rough on this thing. If this was available all the time, you'd hear a lot more about it. But this is a little bait from Megabass. This is the Megabass Karashi. Okay, so just to spec this dude out for you, I'll take it out for you. It's 59 millimeters. It's a 1/6 ounce, right? So it's a pretty small bait. So this is like BFS or spinning rod territory. This is a really, really cool little walking bait. It's a slow sinking bait. So you can see it's really small, so it's finesse. So it's gonna give you that small bait profile, that small bait look underwater. And you basically just work it the same way you would work a walking topwater bait, only it's under the water. So it's gonna have that same kind of side to side darting, diving motion. It does have a little weight in there, right? So it's creating just a little bit of a low pitch sound to draw the fish to it. It's absolutely killer. The fish absolutely destroy this thing because of the way you can work it and how small it is. The other thing that's dope about the Karashi is a lot of times you'll be fishing a topwater bait, like going back to the Yamato or the Kick Knocker or something like that. And a lot of times you'll see them boiling.
Yeah.
Right? But they're so far out of reach that you have to throw a big bait. But then when you see them, they're blowing up bait like this.
Yeah.
But there's no way you could throw this tiny ass little thing all the way out to those boils. So another thing that you can do with this Karashi, you can remove this back hook completely. Take the split ring off, take the hook off completely, and you can use this as a front runner. So you can use this as your front runner, tie this to your main line, and then tie a leader, a little 10-inch or 12-inch leader, and have your full-size topwater bait behind it. So now as you're walking, this guy is out in front dancing while this thing is moving. So you get the casting distance of the big topwater, but you get that small profile of the bait that they're actually eating. And it gives you a chance to actually reach some of those boils and some of those fish. And if they're super aggressive once they're hooked, then you can catch 2 at a time as well, which is super dope. So the Karashi, for me, definitely a sleeper. Again, availability is the biggest challenge to this thing. They only make it like maybe once every 12 to 18 months, and they usually fly out. But if you guys can find them, it's a great one to have in your box. So that for me, there you go. Number 2 for me is Megabass Karashi. All right, number 3. What is your third under the radar guy?
The Bent Minnow.
All right.
So
I like this.
Everybody knows I love the Bent Minnow. We love the Bent Minnow here in the shop. It's a great bait.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So here and
Still
there.
super under the radar though.
Oh, dude.
Wouldn't you say?
Yeah.
Yeah. Even though everybody knows about it, still super under the radar.
Yeah. It's crazy that not everybody in America has this in their
Agreed.
in their box.
Yeah.
So after the bass spawn, we have shad spawn,
Mhm.
right? And you know the bass go nuts on these shad. So this to me is the best representation of for the shad spawn. You throw it out there. I don't know what it is, a topwater, a jerkbait. It's whatever it wants
kind of a
to
hybrid
be.
baby of those. Yep.
It's whatever it wants to be at the moment,
Yep.
right? So you start twitching it, and wherever that bend is when you twitch it, that's the direction it's gonna go. So if it's sideways, it's going sideways. If it's up, that thing's gonna come out of the water and flick out. You can move it, you can work it softly, you can twitch it fast, you can burn it in, you can fish it any way that you really want to. When we did our 1v1 challenge, I was using it as a crankbait at the beginning of the morning.
Right. I was telling these guys when we were playing with it the other day that, you know, a lot of times Griff just winds it in like a crankbait.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was using it as a crankbait, and then as the day went on, that's when I started working it a little bit more aggressive.
Yep.
So
different sizes, right? So there's a 76 millimeter and 86 millimeter. You have the 106 in your hand.
Yeah.
So different sizes based on size of prey that they're chasing or size of body of water.
Yeah.
Do you have a preference to starting point of size, or how are you choosing if you go small or large on this?
So I'm usually gonna start with the 106 because it's the easiest to cast.
Okay.
Right, and in the morning, some of these spaces you need to get a little bit of a cast out there. But if they're not biting it, it's not gonna take me long to know if I need to switch it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a super dope one. Basically a topwater jerkbait hybrid baby.
Yeah.
The Bent Minnow. Yeah.
It's a thing.
It's a thing. Definitely great for this time of the year.
Yeah.
So
amazing.
Good one.
Yeah.
All right. Number 3 for me. I'm going spinnerbait, but I'm staying downsize. So I think a lot of the full-size options are pretty mainstream. I think a lot of guys know about them, but having good downsize options is a challenge, right? So for me, one that definitely sleeps under the radar is this guy, and this is the Lucky Craft Areas spinnerbait. So this is one that was designed for trout, but they make it in all kinds of bass colors. Like I've got a Wakasagi color here, there's a baitfish silver, there's all kinds of normal bass type colors. So it can be great for trout, obviously, because that's what it was built for, but as a small downsized bass option, it's super dope. So, and you know, you and me love to go small water BFS type stuff, and this is one that just always catches them. It's almost too easy to throw, so sometimes we don't throw it because you don't have to do anything to it.
Yeah.
Right? So it's basically just a cast and wind type bait. You can see how small this is. So it's available in an 1/8 ounce and a 1/16, right? So it's definitely BFS category or spinning rod category. But what's dope about this is if you get the feather tuned one, it gives just a little bit of body to it, right? And it puts the body and kind of the target just behind that blade. So as it's going through the water, it's really easy for them to key in. These blades that are on these, this is a Lucky Craft custom blade. So obviously when you wind, it spins, but when you kill it, it's designed to helicopter down as well. So if you guys are fishing really shallow water, it's literally just cast and wind. And you don't have to do anything special. And they smoke it purely based on the size. Yeah. Right? So that's a tiny, tiny little flash. I mean, that's basically the size of any little shad fry or any little perch fry or bluegill fry or anything that you're going to see. This is the size of any little fry. I mean, everything about it is a fry size. But you can also fish it out in deeper water as well by letting it helicopter down, right? And kind of do lift and drop type motion. So from a downsizing standpoint, yeah, take it.
This thing casts a mile.
It really does.
Yeah, it's so small and doesn't weigh much.
Yep.
But when you cast that thing goes.
It's kind of the prime example. We talk a lot about different casting systems, right? And in a lot of baits, you need a casting system, a weight transfer system, because the bait itself isn't going to cut through the air on a cast. Yeah. This is kind of the prime example of nothing needed because it just slices through the air. So even though it's small and light, I mean, we just said an 1/8 ounce, and a lot of people are going, what the fuck? I'm not throwing 1/8 ounce.
Yeah.
Right? It throws just fine.
Yeah.
Right? So Could be a really great option for you guys. Again, this is, you know, smaller gear, lighter line for sure, because we're talking about small little trebles. But when those fish get picky in post-spawn, they are next to impossible to catch.
Yeah.
So finding really great small little baits that can mimic the prey, and you can actually cast them without having to use a fly rod or something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Super critical. So there you go, the Lucky Craft area spinnerbait. Definitely, if your fish are feeding on tiny bait, this one will definitely produce for you guys. That's number 3 for me.
All right.
Okay, number 4 for you. What you got?
Number 4 for me is going to be the Baitsanity Explorer Gill.
Interesting.
All right. But specifically with the paddle tail.
Okay.
Right?
All right.
Adding the paddle tail to it allows me to fish it a lot slower. So I'm doing these huge like pulls, and it's, you know, it's going side to side, but that paddle is just ripping back there, and then, you know, quick pause, work it again, quick pause, work it again, quick pause. There's a ton of bluegills in the water right now because they're coming up on their spawn also.
Yep.
But for us, we also have tilapia. So it looks like a bluegill, like a tilapia. There's a color to match anything that's in the water, really.
True.
With Baitsanity.
Yeah.
And I think right now the bass are just plotting their revenge, right? So like when they were spawning, the bluegills were in there tearing up their beds, and now like bluegills are spawning. The bass aren't going to tear up their beds. They're just going to eat
them.
They're
right.
just going to eat the bluegills.
Yeah, so it's payback is what you're saying.
Yeah. So,
yeah. I like this.
I remember you. Oh.
Yeah. I like this idea.
Yeah.
Now, what are your thoughts? So for me, when I'm choosing baits, I basically choose on profile first, and then I use whatever color I think is going to trigger.
Yes.
Are you the same way, or like you have a white bait in your hands, a bluegill profile, but it's white. There's very few white bluegill.
Yeah. So
are you thinking through this process, or what's your color selection process?
Absolutely. So every lake that I go to, I'm grabbing a different color.
Okay.
Right? So like if we go to Lake Pleasant, the whites are going to work the best for me because of all the big gizzard shad that are in there. Right?
Okay.
And then the shape of this, it's kind of like a shape of all the bait fish that are in the water. It's not necessarily a round bluegill shape.
Okay.
So, and then when you work it, it looks like whatever, like in your head, you're like, all right, I want a tilapia. And you work it, it's like, oh, it looks just like a tilapia.
Interesting.
It looks just like a shad.
They've tricked us into believing that it's everything we want it to be.
Yeah.
But the bass eat it.
Yeah.
So I guess it's a good trick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I've been fishing a lot of the Colorado River lately, and I'm using the jungle perch color.
Okay.
And for me, I bought that color because tilapia.
Okay.
So I'm throwing in these places that have a ton of tilapia. Dude, I've been smoking them on that thing.
That's dope.
Yeah, they're killing it.
Well, this is a fun way to get them on a glide.
Oh, yeah.
Post-spawn glide. I mean, that's definitely a time to jack them.
Yeah.
On a bait like this. I like your selection. All your selection was shallow water.
Yeah.
You missed one critical key. This is probably, other than the Ned rig, this is one of your favorite ways to fish.
Oh God.
Okay. So number 4 for me, if you don't want to throw some big ass glide bait on a heavy rod, there is nothing like a drop shot.
Hell yeah.
And cut.
No, this is no
End the
cut.
video. All right,
All
Griff,
right.
let's go throw some bait.
So I know a lot of you guys live places where, you know, hey, look, hold that up. This is what we all want to be doing.
Yeah.
But sometimes they just don't eat that.
Yeah.
Right? So you try to get them on the top water, you try to get them on the glide, sometimes they just don't eat it. Right? Like if you're Ethan over there, he can't catch a fish on any of this stuff. Right? So you got to go to a worm. Now for me, the reason why this is on there, I know everybody knows about Roboworm, but this is specifically the curly tail Roboworm. So we talk about this a lot, that, you know, the straight tail Roboworm or a straight tail worm, no matter what the brand is going to outsell the curly tail probably 20 to 1.
Yeah.
That's the one that almost everybody gets. And I would say the majority of the year, a straight tail worm is probably the best way to go. But post spawn, when those fish are used to seeing small little bait and they're got a little bit more aggressiveness to them, a curly tail can absolutely destroy them over a straight tail. So this is a time of the year that throwing a curly tail, whether it's largemouth or smallmouth, this is when they're going to smoke this thing. Now, Roboworm makes a 4.5 and a 5.5. I just grabbed 5.5 because this is normally what I throw. You can downsize to a 4.5 if you want to get even a smaller profile. But there's something about that tail moving back there, that little bit of action, a little bit of curly action when it's pulled through the water, and it just has that little movement to it. That, just in that little tail action, is mimicking the small bait, right? And they will eat this thing like crazy. Any reef, any hump, any point, anything like that is a great idea. Now, the other reason why I pulled these out is because we do some very special colors. I said colors. Very special colors here in the shop, some custom ones. And I wanted to just highlight the best ones. So Otaku Seed, of course. This is a great option for post-spawn, designed to look like a bait fish or a shad. Kohler craw, of course, probably the greatest craw pattern ever made, I would say. Orion, right? If you want a beer-colored worm. So any of those could be great.
My bad.
If you want the dumbest color, yes.
Yes.
You didn't think I was going to leave you out of it, did you?
Oh, I know you're saving the best for last.
I see. So those could be some great options. Try it. If you guys are catching them on soft plastic, on a drop shot, on something like that, adding that little curly tail can make a big difference in the bites for you, especially if you guys are fishing clearish water, right? That little bit of movement at the end when you pull it really makes a big difference. So that is number 4 for me.
Yeah. And no one really wants to throw the drop shot, right?
Right.
No one really wants to.
That guy does. Look at it. He's a weirdo.
Well, he
though.
throws a drop shot of necessity.
True. He can't catch them on anything else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's definitely something that I think everyone should have in their arsenal, because, you know, it catches fish, and they will get so picky to where that's the only thing that they're eating.
True. And it's a great way to, you know, look, post-spawn is just one of those times of the year, kind of like summer, where there are times, there are days where you just absolutely jack them. And then there are the complete opposite days where it just sucks, right? And you have to worm.
Yeah.
And that's okay. If they're going to eat it, I'm down to do whatever they'll eat.
Yeah.
Right? If they'll eat that, I'm throwing the glide bait. If they'll eat topwater, I'm throwing the topwater. But if all else fails, I'll go to the worm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You go through your progressions, you're just like boom, 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 and then you're like, fuck.
Yeah. If you're Jeff, you quit
Yeah.
and you go home, right?
Yeah.
But if you're a good angler that's not wash, right? Jeff, you're an admitted washed angler. So
At least I still have my pride at the end of the
How do you,
day.
this isn't
how
pride.
do you do it?
Yeah, I'm not throwing this stupid ass color, dude. I'm throwing these.
At least I have some pride at the end of the day.
Like this? Yeah.
He doesn't know.
The bow and arrow.
Look at him.
Dry fly.
This is really derailed.
Dry fly glide.
Okay, so to wrap it, excellent choices.
Yeah, you too.
I really enjoyed hearing your thoughts. Jeff has been completely entertained this whole time. Hopefully that was insightful. It's just fun to talk about different baits that we don't use as often as others, because hopefully it sheds some light to you guys on some other options that are on the market. It's also fun for us too, because you know, we just get stuck in we get stuck down the same rabbit hole of doing the same thing. So vocalizing and seeing what you had, and you know, talking about some of these baits that we don't use a lot, it kind of inspires me to want to go out and try some different stuff.
Yeah.
So hopefully that was helpful. If you guys have any questions on anything that we covered, drop it down below, and Griff or I will definitely get to it. Jeff will leave links to the products if you guys want to check any of them out closer. And as always, guys, on behalf of myself and Griff and Jeff and everybody here at the Hookup Tackle, guys, thank you for the business. Thank you for the support. We will see you on the next episode. Good luck this post-spawn. Go catch some big ones. See you next time. Peace.